hope I said that right, and
Mhm.
also sees patients via telehealth. She is passionate about social justice, equity in healthcare, and is a strong advocate for making functional healthcare accessible to all. Welcome to the show, Lyssa.
Thank you so much, Velma. It's really great to be here.
So I know that we have a lot of things in common, and we're gonna just dive right in here. I want to ask that first initial question, and then we'll just let the conversation flow from there. What was your most valuable lesson from your divorce, and what made that so valuable?
Hmm. I love this question because it's so, right when it first happens, you don't necessarily think that anything valuable is going to come of it, right? It's such a, for me at least, it's a devastating time in my life.
Mhm.
And there was just so many deep emotions that were really hard to get past. And now that I'm 8 years out looking back, the most valuable thing I learned was forgiveness, was
Mm.
learning that forgiveness isn't about saying what the other person did is okay. It's not about them at all, actually. It's about letting the anger and the sadness and the grief and everything go, and that victim mentality, that feeling that you were wronged, letting
Mhm.
all of that go so that you can move forward. Or at least for me, that was the most important thing. And it was one of the hardest things to come to. Um, it was such a traumatizing, awful experience. Um, and I did a lot of work to get there. I read multiple books.
Mhm.
I went to meditation retreats on forgiveness. I did a lot of work to get there. And now that I'm 8 years out, that is by far just this incredible lesson. And it's been applied lavishly all over my life. Like anyone who ever wronged me or does something that I'm not happy with, I'm really good at now speaking about it, saying how I feel, and not in an angry, blaming kind of way, just really having just increased empathy, understanding that we're all just trying to get by in the world. And even if someone does wrong me or does something that hurts me, I can empathize with them and can understand that they probably didn't mean it, and be able to go to them with love and understanding as opposed to anger or sadness or even just avoidance. So that's the biggest thing. And I feel like it's been really helpful in my job, with my kid, with my friends. So
Mhm. I love that. I love that. I love that forgiveness is top on that list and that it was more about you. I love that you had the distinction in there that it's not about what they did. It's okay
mhm.
because I mean, if we can learn that kind of in all areas of our life, there's nothing but value there. I mean, I know for myself, my favorite definition of forgiveness is remembering without hurting anymore.
I like that one.
There's a lot of good perspectives about forgiveness, and that one really landed well for me because I know, my divorce was not a fun time in my life. As a matter of fact, both of them were not fun times in my life, right? The first one, it was a little bit easier. There were no children involved or anything like that. The second one, there was my son that was involved. It was more high conflict. And when we can come to that place of being able to look back, look in that rear view mirror and look at what has occurred in our lives and not hurt anymore, that
Mhm.
is a real blessing for our lives going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a Buddhist way of looking at it. Something about if you stay angry or you hold a grudge, it's like holding a hot coal in your hand, right? That other person isn't feeling the pain of it, right? They're out there in
Mm.
your life doing what they're doing, and you're the one who's like holding on to this hot coal for no reason at all. So I look at forgiveness as being able to just let that hot coal down, let that hand heal, let it become
Mm.
stronger.
I like that. I love that reference. That's really good. I mean, I'd heard the one about drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yes.
However, what you share there with holding onto a hot coal, I think is so much more accurate because we're continuing to feel the pain, right? And then when we choose to put that down, put down the pain of the circumstances, allow ourselves to heal, allow the hand to heal. That is such a brilliant way of putting it. I love that. I'm using that. I got to go look that up. That's awesome.
I read a lot of Buddhist books about forgiveness, and they were the most helpful resources for me. I read a book by the Dalai Lama. I probably should have looked up the names of the book. And the meditation retreat that I got the most out of was Sylvia Boorstein at Spirit Rock, which was a 4-day silent retreat all about forgiveness. Not Nelson Mandela. Desmond Tutu writes a book about forgiveness also. That was really good. Nelson Mandela has also said a lot of things about forgiveness. I didn't read a book by him, though. But Desmond Tutu has a book out about forgiveness as well. Anyway, lots of great resources out there.
What I would love, if you don't mind doing that, Lyssa, is because I know you're in our group, throw a post down of some of those books that you've read and share that with the ladies. That would be brilliant. Okay. One of the other things that you mentioned when you were talking about what you received out of this was speaking up for yourself. Could you say a little more about that?
Yeah, I just feel like it's so hard to know exactly what was just straight from the divorce and also just natural aging and maturing and getting to this point of my life where I just realized that obfuscation and distillation and all the different things we do to avoid hurting other people or, just worried about what they're thinking about us goes away. But I really think that I've learned for me that being straightforward with people is a lot easier and tends to lead to less confusion than kind of beating around the bush or trying to soften things. And not everyone appreciates that. I'm not going to lie. Like I've definitely gotten in trouble in job situations where I was really blunt, where things needed to change, where there was racism or elitism or things that I didn't believe in that I needed to address. And not everyone likes that, right? I definitely got lectured, like, you need to do the sandwich and say everything's sweet and then kind of put in your comment. And I just, after my divorce, I lost a lot of the kind of, I just wanted to be real, right? Like I spent so much time in my marriage pussyfooting around everything, trying so hard not to make him mad, trying so hard to not get into a fight, not, it just, marriage is exhausting if you're not in a good one. And so after that, I think I just didn't feel like doing that anymore. I just wanted to have relationships in my life with people I could be myself with, that I can be honest with, not mean, like I'm a very kind person, but if someone's hurting my feelings or someone's doing something that I don't enjoy, like passive aggressiveness just doesn't work.
Right. I love what you're sharing about that. Being in those kinds of relationships where we get to be our authentic selves. Like I know for myself, I had a lot of those avoidance patterns. I had actually closed a business to save my marriage, which ultimately didn't work. And I want to preface that. And at the same time, by making that choice, it actually supported me to be able to leave my marriage safely. So in the end, it was the right choice, even though it was born out of that avoidance.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I just honesty and, what I do for a living is I'm a nurse practitioner. I work with women one-on-one or in classes. And, when you meet somebody in a place of vulnerability, when they are vulnerable and they don't feel well and they, really want to get their health back on track and probably have a lifetime of trauma or illness, different things in their lives, possibly even divorce, like different things that have happened in their life. And now they're seeing me and I'm really asking them to be vulnerable with me and open up and share with me all those things that have happened, because that's going to help me figure out what's going on with their health. When did things change and how can I help support them? I find that I need to come with the same level of openness and honesty. I don't share about my life, right? I'm their practitioner, but just being honest and open to give them a safe space and a trusting space, someone they can talk to, is really important. And so I think since my divorce, I've gotten a lot better at that also.
That's well, and that makes a lot of sense, because I know for myself that because of the experiences that I have had, it is a lot easier for me to listen for, um, what someone might need
Mhm.
in that moment, and it makes a lot of sense because a divorce is highly stressful, which I know you work a lot with hormonal health for women.
Mhm.
Stress impacts our hormones,
Of course it does.
right?
Yes.
So I want to take a little bit of a twist. I know I've asked you to be present here with your story. Um, and I think that you bring something else to the table here, given the work that you are in with hormonal health and working with women. What are some of the things that we could do, whether it be nutritional or otherwise, that can support us when we are in that kind of a transition?
That's a great question. And I have been working with women who either have been divorced or in difficult relationships or in the middle of going through a divorce right now. And interestingly, one of the first things I always work with people on is a mindset, right? Habits and mindset. And forgiveness is really high on the list, not just for women who are going through divorce, but I have found that we all carry something, right? Some kind of feelings of being wronged in the past, or um, even forgiveness for ourselves, right? Feel guilty about how we've been eating our whole lives, or lack of exercise, or we yelled at our kid this morning, or whatever it is, right? There's just so much there. So, working on that ability to forgive is huge. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
great exercises that people can do around that. And then at the same time that we're working on that, we're working on stress reduction, circadian rhythm entrainment, which means getting our
Mhm.
bodies back on a good rhythm with light and darkness. And that light and darkness really does affect our stress hormones, cortisol and epinephrine, norepinephrine, and also melatonin, right? So, cortisol is like that stress hormone that comes up. Melatonin is the one that's supposed to help put us to sleep at night. And if our circadian rhythm is off, which it often is at times of extreme stress and extreme
Mhm.
sadness or trauma in our lives, then that gets messed up. That's where we have trouble sleeping or end up waking up multiple times a night or stay up all day, all night, and then sleep all day because we're sad or depressed or angry or stressed. So, really working with women to get back onto a schedule where they're going to sleep at night at the same time, that they have a nighttime routine, that when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is see bright light for at least 15 or 20 minutes to really get their brain messaging like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. And that light and darkness is what our brain reacts to, our pineal gland and the suprachiasmatic nuclei, right? That's controlling everything. And if we can even just do something that simple, go have a nighttime routine, go to sleep at a reasonable hour, wake up with the light, stay off our screens at nighttime, even just that small change can make a huge difference in how we are experiencing stress. And that
Mm.
in turn, flattens our cortisol a little bit, helps us be able to get back into that parasympathetic rest and digest mode instead of always being in fight or flight mode. And that is a huge one. I think that's probably one of the most important things. And of course, there's so much else, right? We all know that ice cream tastes good and feels good emotionally, and it's probably not serving us, right? Eating high sugar, high processed foods is probably not serving us in our ability to manage our stress and our trauma. It makes things worse, not better. So, helping women really find like nourishing, wonderful foods that make them happy, that feel good, that taste good, but that are also helping them stay healthy and strong as opposed to making things worse.
Right. Okay. I love that. I love that. I heard routine. And actually, if I were to combine some of what you said, it would be nourishing routines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Lots of
And
things that nourish us.
right. Like I know you mentioned earlier that some of the things that you did for yourself were reading, meditation. And I think actually, um, given your background, it sounds like that probably supported you a lot in the early days when it came to transitioning out of your marriage because you had some of the foundational knowledge about how to support yourself with stress.
I had some of the knowledge, and also I had a kid, more importantly. right? So the knowledge was there, but I think if I didn't have a kid, everything would have been different. The first couple months, I just had to remind myself to breathe. That was my practice. There was
Mm.
I was just like almost fainting because I was even forgetting to breathe. I was so upset. It was so hard to just put one foot in front of the other. And the thing that got me to keep doing that and to get me to do the work, right? The work wasn't just so I didn't feel sad anymore, right? And it's the same thing as what I do. This is really great to go into this. So, when we're sick in modern day conventional medicine, right? You don't feel good, you have all these symptoms, you go to the doctor, they look at like, oh wow, this is really bad. Let's give you a pill, make you feel better. Okay, I feel a little bit better, but you're still not all the way better, right? You still maybe are not sleeping optimally. Your nutrition is not optimal. Your energy is not optimal. But because you don't have an overt acute illness, the conventional medicine model says you're fine, even though you're not. And what
Mm.
I do as a functional medicine practitioner is I want to get you to optimal health, right? We don't stop at, oh, I just don't feel horrible anymore. We want to get you to the point where you feel amazing. And I think it was the same thing for my mental health during this time of the divorce. And I didn't have those words to put into it then when it all was going on. But, there was some stuff I could do to like make it through each day. But then I realized having a kid and wanting to one be a role model to show her like, yeah, life's gonna throw you these awful, awful curveballs and really bad shit's gonna happen. Sorry about my language. Really bad stuff's gonna happen in your life to everyone. We all have bad things happen, whatever it is. And I wanted to show her what resilience could look like. So that was really important to me. And then I also wanted to not just be um, a stable, the same person I was, but just able to function. Like I wanted to be way better than able to function. I wanted to become a better person. I wanted to be stronger and healthier and, bring healthier things into my life. And so I went past just, okay, I'm going to read and meditate until I can stand it. I'm actually going to do all this work and go to seminars and read extra books and do all these, deep practices with healers because I know that I wasn't living up to everything I could be in my life in that marriage. I was living it so small. I wanted a kid. I got my kid. And, then I just was like, okay, now I want to go forward and live my optimal life, not just a baseline life. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. I love, so there was again a lot of really good stuff in there. You talked about how you had to think about breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for myself during that period of time, it was like if all I can do is breathe, that's all I do. And
Yeah.
and sometimes we had to really think about that. And you talked about um, being a resilience role model for your daughter. And I know that I really connect to that because that was one of the important things. I didn't do everything right when it came to transitioning from my marriage.
Nobody does.
No, yeah, thank you. And at the same time, the gift I wanted to give to my son was, yes, I'm hurting. I let him see me hurt because I wanted him to see me heal. I
Mhm.
wanted him to see me grow stronger. And because I wanted it to give him permission that when things don't go right, it's okay if he doesn't feel good in that moment. It will get better. I wanted him to see that progression. And so it sounds to me like you gave that same gift to your daughter of
We'll
seeing,
see. I tried.
right? Well, I mean, we really do the best we absolutely can. And the other thing that I really appreciated about what you shared was that you used your divorce as an opportunity for it to catalyst you into more and better.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if that is something that would have happened anyway, although I don't believe that the relationship I was in would have let me grow, right? There was
Right.
so much of my energy went every day to just managing the
Right.
situation.
Hmm.
Um, and there wasn't a lot of support. So, realizing I had to be my own support. And I think, you live a lifetime. I have amazing parents who are incredibly supportive. And then, there's I've got best friends who are supportive. I've been well supported my whole life. So I think being in a relationship that wasn't supportive was kind of a wake up call. And I think it woke me up to realizing like I needed to be my own best support while I still have all those other people in my life and they're absolutely 100% there for me. Now I'm able to do it for myself. I don't always think I need someone else to be doing it. I don't need someone else to rescue me. I don't know someone else to kind of be holding my hand through the hard parts in life. I got stronger.
Mhm. Well, and it sounds like you were able to choose the support networks that you brought into your life and choose the self-support things that you brought into your life. It sounds like um, there was a lot of blessings that you created through the experience.
Maybe. I think I already had a lot of blessings in my life that I was very aware for, and they helped me get through
Mhm. Mhm.
everything, right? Like just everything I've done in my life, all the traveling I've done, I had a completely new career in my 30s. I went back to nursing school after being in business. There's been all these different things in my life that having these incredible networks are my parents and my friends. I've had the same best friends my entire life. I've had the best parents my entire life. And so I think those networks were there already. I think one thing I help women do when they come to me in poor health and feeling bad or frustrated with their menopause or perimenopause symptoms is uh, help them reach out to those networks also, right? Realizing who they have
Mhm.
in their life, who can be there for them, because we all need that kind of support. We all need to know that there's someone there cheering us on, loving us, even if we need to learn to re-love ourselves. And that was a big thing that happened after the divorce, right? There's so much feeling of unworthiness for me. There was a lot of feeling of unworthiness and failure, like deep, deep sense of failure because I came from a divorce household. I swore I would never get divorced. And there I was getting divorced against my will. Um, so I had those networks, and part of what I got from them was being able to see myself through their eyes, right? Like, I think I have a lot of clients who come to me and they feel so beat down by the fact that they can't stop eating food that they know is hurting their body, or they are so stressed out all the time that they don't know how to get to sleep at night. There's so much going on, and so helping them utilize their networks in positive ways is great. So yes, I totally did that, but I think what was new for me was finding my own strength also, and kind of realizing I could be even more than what I was.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. And again, a lot of what you shared, I connect with very deeply. I did have some wonderful support networks that were available to me once I chose to
Mhm.
access them, which I think is that harmony between self-support and the network support is choosing to access that, because I know for myself, especially in the early days of my second divorce, I was going through those thoughts of I'm a failure, because it was, here I am heading into my second divorce and I'm dragging the child through this, right? And again, same, I come from a divorced family as well, so it was just like, oh my gosh, right, here I go, I'm following the pattern, right? And so it really was, I think, that the biggest first step to being my support network was allowing myself to access the support networks that were there around me.
Yeah. Something else I would recommend too. I don't know how you felt about this, but at the time I didn't have a lot of friends who were divorced. Now I have a lot, unfortunately, but at the time I didn't. My kid was 5, and so we were on the early side of that in our like friend group. Um, and but I did have a few friends who had been divorced, in the year
Mhm.
prior to me getting divorced. And even though they weren't my closest friends, the friends I've known my whole life, they were relatively new mommy friends. But reaching out to people who had already been through it was really powerful for me. Like it gave me, I felt like I didn't have to explain as much, right? Even though our divorces were
Mm.
different and they happened differently, like I could call them at 2 in the morning and just cry, and they got it, and they would listen to me. Not that my dear friends who have had my whole life didn't, because they absolutely were there for me, and they had many 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls with like, "You need to stay on the phone with me because I can't be alone right now." But there was something really special about having friends who had been through it and who had already healed quite a bit before.
Right.
And then, in turn, I've been able to be there for a lot of my friends who have then subsequently gone through a divorce as well. And and I think that's the beauty of what you do, right? Like, it's great to be able to reach out to people, but either if you don't have friends who've been through it, or they went through it so long ago they don't remember, or you don't want to burden them with all of your stuff, having a divorce coach, like that idea of someone, because I think, that would have been something, now that I'm thinking about it, right? All that stuff I did, having a divorce coach to even just like help me get through, okay, this is what's going on with the lawyers. This is what's going on with this. And just, having someone I can really, almost like a therapist, but who's a coach to pay, who says, I am here for you, right? Who, it's not always a give and take. Sometimes with friendships, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm asking for so much all the time when you're in such a bad state.
Mhm.
So I could see what you do being really powerful, because you've been through it twice, and you also have all of this great training to help support people in finding a new way forward. And so I think that could be, I didn't have that, a professional, and I could see that that would have been a really helpful adjunct to what I already had created for myself.
Well, and so there's a few juicy things in there that you brought up, was because I know for myself that was some of the reason why I wasn't accessing my support networks, was because the way I put it was is I didn't want to vomit on my friends.
Mhm.
Right. And I, thankfully, through the process of opening up to my friends, I did find that some of my friends had direct experience with some of the things I was experiencing, so had an understanding. There were people who loved me anyways, even though they didn't have an understanding. I accessed therapy. I am a strong proponent of therapy because I do believe that we deserve that kind of support, in that they don't have a personal connection into what it is that you're experiencing. So they don't have opinions on your partner, or any of those things. They don't bring any of that stuff to the table. They are just that clean plates for you to land. So I really, really believe in that a lot. Um, what else was there? There was something else that you said. Oh, whatever. I'll be going back and listening to this anyways, because there was a lot of amazing information in here. I do want to make sure that people know where to find you. And so for those of you who are watching, this is a website that you can go for to receive a free report from you. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah, it's about perimenopause and menopause symptoms and some of the things you can get through. And the cool thing about this is a lot of the stuff that will help you with your hormone health will also help you with your stress health and your trauma health. So if you are going through a divorce, if you're going through this awful time, and it's causing you stress, then and you're, later in life, and even if you're not, this could be really helpful. So mostly it's called the 5 toxic beliefs preventing you from thriving in your 40s and beyond. It
Mm,
can help people who are going through trauma in addition to hormonal changes as well.
brilliant. Okay. And for those of you who are listening, and don't have the video, it is howtobalanceyourhormones.com. And then the other thing I want to give people, connect people to, is you have a Facebook group as well where you interact with your community. And so I have that up on the screen for those of you who are watching. But if you go to Facebook and search for a group called Navigating the Change, you will find Lyssa's Facebook group and be able to connect with her there.
Yes, the full name is Navigating the Change, Hormones, Health, and You.
Perfect. Okay. And I also will have a bunch of links inside of the comment sections and everything like that, or the descriptions, depending on where you're viewing this, so that you have access to being able to connect with Lyssa. Lyssa, thank you so much for coming and sharing your time, sharing your experience with us, and sharing some of your wisdom, both from the perspective of being a divorced woman, but also from the perspective of bringing your training to this, because there's a lot of wisdom in that that can support us through that kind of a change. Like, if we are navigating change, it's just a little bit, it's a related but different kind of
Yeah,
change.
definitely. Well, thank you so much, Mom. It was great talking to you.
Awesome. And thank you to the listeners and viewers out there. We so appreciate you. Please hit like and subscribe. Share your comments. Tell us what it is that you connected to or make sense. Ask your questions, and I will do my best to come and answer them and bring my guests to answer them where appropriate. And head on over to Facebook and look up Divorced Women Creating Peace. We'd love to have you in the community. Have a brilliant day.